Have you ever really looked at a flower and thought about how it all works? I mean, it's not just pretty, right? It's a master of survival. Today, we're going to dive into the brilliant engineering behind how plants reproduce, all the way from a tiny bud to this full-blown bouquet with a single critical mission.
So, here's what we've got on tab. We're going to start with the absolute basics. What is a flower, really? Then we'll go back to its origin story, a simple bud. After that, we'll see how flowers team up to form communities and check out their different architectural styles. And to wrap it all up, we'll do a quick side-by-side comparison. Sound good? Let's jump in.
All right, so first things first. When we say flower, what are we actually talking about? Because it's so much more than just a pretty thing to look at. It is, get this, the fundamental building block of sexual reproduction for a huge group of plants.
Okay, so this definition is pretty fascinating, right? A flower isn't some brand new invention on the plant. It's actually a short stem whose leaves have been totally transformed to carry out reproduction. Think about that. It's like nature took a regular old stem and leaves and said, you know what? Your new job is to make petals and all these other specialized parts. And they all have one single goal, creating the next generation.
You know, every story has a beginning, right? Well, a flower's story starts in a pretty humble and maybe unexpected place. Let's check out where they come from.
And this diagram shows it perfectly. This is the starting point. Seriously, every single flower, I don't care how big or colorful or complex it is, starts its life as a simple vegetative bud. Yeah, the exact same kind that would normally just grow into a leafy stem. It's just a brilliant example of nature being incredibly efficient, right? Just repurposing a basic part for an absolutely extraordinary job. So as this special bud starts to develop, you'll often see this unique little leaf that comes with it. That's called a bract. You can kind of think of it as a little sidekick or maybe an opening act announcing the main event, the flower that's about to pop out. And right here in the diagram, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. See that little leaf? That's the bract. It's emerging from what's called the axil, which is really just that little nook where the bud joins the main stem. It's like a little signpost that says, hey, flower coming soon right here. Okay, so we've got this single flower down, but things get even cooler when we zoom out. See, plants are often way more social than you'd think. They don't just put out one flower at a time. They group them together in these organized and sometimes totally spectacular clusters. So let me ask you a simple question. Do flowers always grow alone? You probably already know the answer is a big no. But what's really interesting is that the way they group together isn't random at all. It's very intentional. And there's a technical name for these flower arrangements. It's called an inflorescence. It sounds complicated, but it's really just a community of flowers, all strategically placed on a central stem, which we call an axis. This diagram here breaks it down nicely. You've got that main axis, think of it as the backbone, and then all the individual flowers attached to it. Now, this isn't just about looking pretty. It's an incredibly smart strategy. By grouping together, they create this big, can't-miss-it target for pollinators, which, you guessed it, massively boosts their chances of reproduction. Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting. Because these flower clusters, these inflorescences, they aren't all the same. They come in different architectural styles. And each one has its own specific advantages. Let's look at 3 of the most common designs. All right, first up we have the raceme. Now the key thing to notice here is that each individual flower has its own little stalk, that's called a pedicel, that connects it to the main stem. They're arranged all along that stem, and often the oldest flowers are at the bottom and the new ones pop up at the top. This creates this really cool continuous bloom. Next up is the spike. So what's the big difference between this and the raceme? Well, look closely. The flowers on a spike, they have no stalks, none. They're attached directly to that central axis. And what that does is create this much more compact, dense, and often really dramatic-looking arrangement. And for our third type, we've got the umbel. This one is super distinctive, you can't miss it. In an umbel, all the flower stalks shoot out from the exact same point at the top of the stem. The result is this gorgeous dome-shaped or flat-topped cluster. It looks just like the ribs of an umbrella opening up. It's a great visual. Okay, so that's 3 different architectural designs, each one unique. Let's just put them all side by side real quick so the differences are crystal clear. Yeah, this table lays it all out. So you've got the raceme, stalked flowers arranged along the axis. Then the spike, it's similar, but remember, no stalks, the flowers sit right on the axis. And then the umbel, which is totally different. All the stalked flowers come out from one single point.
And for a real-world example of an umbel, you don't have to look any further than your own kitchen. Think about the flowers on garlic or onion plants. That's it right there. So here's the big takeaway, right? From that tiny little bud we started with, all the way to a complex inflorescence that looks like a ready-made bouquet. Every single part of a flower's structure is a carefully designed blueprint. A blueprint for one thing, making sure the plant survives and creates the next generation. And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. We've seen what these structures are and how they're built. But the really fascinating question is, why? Why are they different? Think about it. How does the dense, packed shape of a spike affect how a bee lands on it, compared to the wide-open landing pad of an umbel? Or how does it affect how wind carries the pollen? That's where it all connects, that beautiful link between structure and function.